Hey there, and welcome to another edition of 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers. I'm Tom Caron here in beautiful Southwest Florida. We're actually inside because there was a little bit of rain today. But we are getting ready for a special game on NESN this Sunday. The Red Sox will take on the Atlanta Braves. And it's not because Chris Sale is going to be on the mound, though. Yeah, maybe he is. But it's because of who is going to be in the stands. 40 some odd teenagers who are patients at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, the Jimmy Fund Clinic, who are part of an annual trip down to spring training that the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute puts together. Patients from the Jimmy Fund Clinic with nurses and doctors, and Lisa Scherber, who is the head of patient and family activities at the clinic, bring them all down. And they get to spend the weekend here as teenagers. Can you imagine being a teenager with cancer? Being a teen is tough enough. Being a teen battling cancer is obviously life-changing. And for the weekend, they get to just be teens. They get to hang out with other teens who are going through the same thing they are going through, who can share experiences. And they don't have to be a teen with cancer. They can just be themselves. They get to meet the Red Sox. They get to go to a pool at the hotel. They get to have a good time and then eventually come to the game and enjoy themselves at JetBlue Park. It is a tradition that has been going on for years and is about to happen again. And so we are using that trip this Sunday to highlight the amazing work being done at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. It is the Jimmy Fund Spring Training Takeover, a celebration of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. I'll be in the booth. I'm co-chair now with Brock Holt. Will Middlebrooks, who was an honorary captain when he was a player, was the team captain for the Jimmy Fund. He'll be with me in the booth. Jemai Webster, who's been around for so many telethons, will be part of it as well. And we'll hear the stories of some of the teenagers there, and we will talk about the amazing cutting-edge research and care being provided at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Here's a little primer on what it is. Here's a look back at past trips and how important this trip is to the teenagers who go.
How has spring training been going?
It's been nice. 2 R's, 2 T's?
Yeah.
Yeah? Heck yeah. You guys are great. Where would you like me to sign up?
Wherever you want to sign up.
Wherever? All right. This can't do anything but brighten your day. I mean, you come out here and you see all their smiles, and you just gotta, it just puts a big smile on your face. You know, it brings joy to your heart, and so I'm glad that they're able to come down and get some more and just enjoy a baseball game down here. And I mean, this made my day right here.
Along with meeting the teens also got to float in a lazy river and enjoy a spring training game from a private suite.
1-0 pitch. Ground ball up the middle. Albies can't get there, and it's into center. O'Neill scores. Devers right behind them.
For many in the group, this was their first time away from family since their diagnosis.
What these kids go through, in an instant, their life is changed forever. So they're dealing with life and death situations. They're dealing with body image changes, whether it's loss of hair, loss of a limb, scarring, and they just don't feel like a kid anymore. And so once they sort of see these kids coming out with other scars and no hair and whatever, they're like, wait a second, I do belong. I am okay to be like this.
I was nervous at first. I wouldn't find someone to talk to, but my group was amazing, and then I met a few other people outside of it. The Jimmy Fund Clinic's amazing, and it's nice seeing everyone else going through it and hearing about their stories too.
In a month filled with bullpen sessions, fielding drills, and weight training, the visit provided perspective on life outside of baseball.
They're going through so much, and the fact that they can smile, it's like, really? I get mad about getting out. These kids are fighting and they're warriors, and the least I could do is come out here and be with them.
It just reminds you that this is a game, and there's bigger things in life and stuff that it's very unfortunate, and all you can do is hopefully be a light to these kids and just brighten their day in any way possible. I mean, to see all their smiling faces is great. To get to meet them all and just talk to them, it's been an absolute blast.
Joining us now is Lisa Scherber, Director of Patient and Family Programs at the Jimmy Fund Clinic of the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and my co-chair of the Jimmy Fund, Brock Holt, all-star player for the Boston Red Sox. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks, TC. It's good to see you on screen. I was just down in Florida. I didn't get a chance to talk to you there live, so had to wait till I got back up to Nashville.
Lisa, Brock was very busy. He was back in full uniform. He was coaching anybody he could see, like chasing after people to help them with their swing. It was a beautiful thing to see.
And I love that. And
people were running away from me.
So, Lisa, we haven't seen you down here, but we will see you down here this weekend. It's time for the team trip. We just saw a little taste of what it is. Take us through the history. Bring it. Like, how did this begin? How has it grown? Tell us a little about the history of this trip.
Sure. I mean, you can't really talk about spring training or any of our other events without talking about Todd Schwartz. He was an amazing 19-year-old young man who was wise before, beyond his years. He had let me know that I was kind of doing things wrong with the teenagers, that I should take them all away. And I didn't, we had this really great conversation where he was telling me he was off in college. He went to UMass Amherst. He was a freshman there. And he sort of had gotten this taste of kind of what life should be as a 19-year-old. It's sort of away from your family. You get your independence. You sort of get to explore the world a little bit. And so we had this great conversation. And I knew talking with him that, he was never going to be able to sort of see this work out. But I think it was one of those things where I knew we had to do something. He passed away a few months after that conversation. And, the thing that rang through my head constantly was, you need to take us away. And I just kept hearing that of his words. And, at first I was like, oh, take us away, fly us to spring training, fly us to anything Red Sox. And then I just realized it really meant so much more. It just meant, take us away from the hospitals, take us away from the meds, take us away from the life that we don't really know anymore. They've been thrown into this life that no one really understands. And especially as a teenager, it's just so hard to navigate. And the words just rang through my head constantly. And right after he passed away, I went to our nurses, I went to our doctors, and I said, we need to take these kids away. We need to show them that they're kids again. We need to show them that they have independence, that they're strong and they're powerful, and they can laugh again. They can laugh while they're undergoing treatment and feeling lousy, and they can make new friends. And and I didn't know if this was all going to work. I mean, this was something that no one's ever done before, and we just took it and we ran with it. And in 2004 was the first spring training, and he passed away in 2002. So it didn't in November of 2002. So it didn't take us long to sort of get our act together, figure out how can we take teenagers on active treatment? How can we take them away for a weekend with all their meds, with everything that goes along with this? And I love working at the Jimmy Fund Clinic at Dana-Farber because everyone was just like, let's do this. There was something that we knew was going to be a difficult task, but not something that we couldn't overcome. And I love that about where I work, that we have ideas, we listen to the kids, and then we make it happen.
And the Red Sox connection is important, Brock. I'll ask you about that in a second. But Lisa, the real important part of this is what you said a minute ago. It just lets teenagers be teenagers, right? Like, I can't imagine. It's hard enough being a teenager, a healthy teenager. Being a teenager with cancer is what you suddenly become, right? You're defined by the disease. But all of a sudden, this trip allows them to meet other teenagers going through the same crap they're going through, share stories, make a new friend. Like, they're back. You told the story a couple years ago, the mom who said, I got my daughter back after the trip, right? She finally started being the girl she was before. How important do you think that is for these kids?
It's critical. I mean, that was Maui who went on this trip, and she lost her self-esteem. She felt she wasn't who she was before cancer, and she came back with a smile again. And I think it's one of those things where, what does this do? I think we all know that research funding that goes to research is critical, and that is the focus. We all know that.
Mhm.
But while we do that, while we try to figure this out, we need to bring these kids some joy. We need to bring some magic into their lives that when they look back at this time in treatment, they can sort of see some moments where they were laughing and they were with friends, and it wasn't all horror, and for the kids who don't make it through, the ones who we lose along the way, these parents hold on to these memories that they have of their teens boarding an airplane, leaving them in the middle of treatment, and they have those memories and they love them. And there's two of our families that, lost both of their kids, Anthony and Dan, and those two families donated funds to make sure we could go on spring training every year. And those are the things that are so important. It's how it changes the entire family. It doesn't just change the patient. It changes their siblings. It changes their parents, their grandparents. Everyone sees this child come back a different person again. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. Brock, from the player's perspective, there are a few things. I mean, it's kind of the dog days of spring training. We're midway through. This usually happens around that, and yet it's amazing every year. Virtually every player in that clubhouse comes out an hour and a half before the game. They all come out to see the kids. You very quickly felt a personal connection with this cause. Tell us about the relationships you've built with some of the patients, what seeing a smile on a teenager in Fort Myers meant to you. Tell us how this resonated with you.
Yeah, I think for me, TC, you said it best. I mean, you get midway into spring training, there's a lot of things that we as players say no to. Like, we don't want to go do this and do that. Like, we're getting ready for the game. But when the teens come down with the Jimmy Fund, it's it's an easy yes for everyone, and everyone's excited to go out there and spend some time with the kids, and like I said, just help however we can. And that's kind of how I took it when I was first there, and this visit that Lisa brings them down on spring training is kind of how I was introduced to the Jimmy Fund. Obviously, getting traded over from Pittsburgh after the 2012 season, before 2013. That visit was my first experience with the Boston Red Sox and the Jimmy Fund kind of coinciding. And I believe David Ross and Will Middlebrooks were captains of the Jimmy Fund that year. And I went out there and instantly just bonded with some kids, and knew that this was a special visit for them, but that the Jimmy Fund was a special organization, and meant a lot to the Boston Red Sox and to the city. And it was something that, I've said this many times. I've always loved kids, and I've been able to communicate well with them. And I don't know if it's because I'm a little immature at times, but or I'm a kid at heart, right? But I've always wanted to be a dad. I've always wanted to have kids of my own, and I just get it. And I was able to spend time there in spring training and kind of learn about the Jimmy Fund and what it means to the patients, the families, and I knew it was just something that I wanted to be a part of, and fortunately I got to do that for my 8 years in Boston, and then now me and you get to do what we're doing, and hopefully we can make a lasting impact and do a lot of good.
If I recall, didn't a teenager give you some hitting tips? Wasn't there a year where somebody started telling you, if you try this?
Yeah, you know what? I think it was probably 2015 when I made the All-Star team. I got the tips, and it helped me out. If it wasn't for those tips, I probably wouldn't have had the career that I was able to have. So, it's but yeah, it's always fun because, like Lisa said, that the teenagers get away from the hospital and get away from the medicine and come down to the sunshine, be around the Red Sox for a day, but also I don't even know if that's probably their favorite part of the trip, right? It's going down and staying in the hotel and sitting by the pool and being in the sunshine and just being teenagers and living, living in a normal life for a few days. And, it's vacation for them. And, it's just a special trip that means a lot to everyone in the Red Sox organization. And, everyone's happy that we can be a part of it. And like I said, help out however we can.
Well, can I just jump in too? Because I'm sorry. He's kind of forgetting, like, this is where he met Maddie.
Yes.
You forged your beautiful relationship with Maddie. And what was so special about that is she hated baseball, and I actually remember I think it was Ortiz that came out and everyone was just jumping all over him. And she's like, Lisa, I have no desire to go see him. And it was nothing against David, but it was just, she didn't quite get it. And then this kind of real, like, just low key guy comes walking out of the clubhouse and it was Brock. And instantly she realized, like, that's more my speed. That's, I want to talk to this guy. And I think, like, that was a moment that I'll actually never forget. And I think every spring training, every player that ends up connecting with a patient like that, it's special, and it's lifelong. And I think that changed you as a human. It definitely changed her. And I thank you for that. And I know I've told you a million times, but I think that's what's so special about these trips, because it really isn't all about baseball. Although we get them there because of the Red Sox, but some just want to meet different people, and Brock is that different person sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that is where I met Maddie, and we built a very special relationship. And obviously we miss her to this day, and we got to have a special moment with Dawn last year at the telethon, throwing out the first pitch. Lisa got me good, with the surprise with the first pitch with Maddie's mom. But yeah, met Maddie there, and like Lisa said, she didn't care about baseball. And I mean, obviously not if she wanted to talk to me out of everyone, on the team. I just got traded over, and nobody had a clue who I was. I didn't even really nobody on the team. I was just kind of keeping my mouth shut, trying to make a team. And, but we built the relationship, and it grew from there, and, ended up giving her my phone number, and we would text back and forth, so, she was a special girl. And like Lisa said, I mean, I think that, meeting her was kind of the driving force for me, to be more involved and try and help out however I can and make an impact. And, like I said, I'm so fortunate that I got to be a part of it for as long as I did. And ever since I left the Red Sox, I've been trying to get back, and we're back now, me and UTC, and I couldn't be more excited to be back involved. And like I said, I hope that we can impact a lot of people and do good things. And I know that, me and you as partners and how much we both care. I know it's going to be a lot of fun, and would want to do it with anyone else, man.
You're the perfect guy for it, Brock. There's no doubt about that. Of all the players I've seen come through here, you get it more than most. Lisa knows that well. Lisa, it hasn't been easy. I mean, this is a tough enough thing to pull off every year. You had COVID shut you down. Probably at some point there was a wonder if you'd ever be able to do it again, right? How good does it feel to have this going again?
I mean, it's one of those things. Last year was the first year back after COVID, and it was a lot of emotion, just because I know how these weekends impact our patients. I know, I see it every time, and it's exactly what Todd wanted. He wanted these weekends to sort of make a lasting impact, and not having it through COVID was one of those things where I feel sorry that we couldn't give that to these teenagers going through it. But going back now and knowing that these kids are going to be different because of it, there's just no words for that. I mean, I just think it really is everything to these teens, and it's also everything to our staff. The nurses and the doctors that give up their weekends to sort of to spend with these teens, making sure that they find the joy and they stay healthy and they feel good. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for them. It's a lot of work for my team, but everyone jumps into this and it makes them better nurses. It makes them better doctors, because they really get it when they see these teens, and it might not be the teen that they're seeing in their exam room every week. But now they're seeing them on the lazy river floating around and meeting a player and smiling. And so that changes their relationship. So that's super important.
How much staff, like how much support do you need to make this happen?
It takes a village. So we have 18 nurses going. We have 2 of our doctors going. We have 2 of our psychosocial clinicians going. And then we have my activities team that goes. So it's a big traveling party. We have 43 teenagers ready to go, and we're hoping that we don't have any more cancellations. We always get a few just because treatments don't work out. Kids aren't feeling well. But I mean, our doctors do everything they can. If they need to sort of delay a treatment for 2 days, they will. If they need to sort of send them with meds that are going to make them feel good while they're here, they will. And so that's what's special about the Jimmy Fund Clinic, where, it's everyone's mission to make sure that these kids come back just different. They come back feeling just alive again, and just happy.
And to be clear, it takes a village. It also takes a village to get some funding to make this happen. And over the years, I mean, this is an organic thing. This isn't one day, 20 something years ago, somebody gifted you a few $1 million to do this, right? This is an annual fundraising involved, the families, as you mentioned. I mean, it takes a village just to create the opportunity to send the village to go.
Yeah. And we're so fortunate. We have JetBlue that, we are powered by JetBlue. That's who gets us there and gets us home safely. And, and they don't just get us there. They sort of make sure the process, as I'm sending in, the names of our patients, they're making sure everything's okay. We'll have cancellations. We'll have kids added on. They make sure that this child is sitting next to their doctor or their psychosocial clinician. And as soon as we arrive by a state police escort to Logan Airport, JetBlue just swarms on us in such a great way and gets us through security and gets us through all of that stuff that can cause so much anxiety. I mean, you put all the medical stuff aside, it's just so anxiety provoking, an airport for our kids. And they just make it so smooth and so easy. So we're so grateful for that.
And obviously the Red Sox support, right? And obviously the Red Sox support means so much. Brock, I'm gonna tee you up for the last question here. I was thinking about this. If you were still a player today, and you were in the clubhouse, and a rookie or a guy who's just traded here this coming Saturday came over to you and said, "Hey, what's this? Why should I go out? What am I going to get out of this as a player?" What would you as a veteran say to a young guy? Like, what is this to someone who's just moving into a Red Sox uniform and has no idea what this relationship is about?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think you would have to say too much. I mean, it's amazing that people just get it. And I think that's why it works so well, because the two organizations go hand in hand, right? And the Red Sox mean so much to the Jimmy Fund means so much to the Red Sox. But I feel like when you play for the Red Sox, it's just part of what you do. And I mean, I would obviously encourage anyone to do it, but I feel like you see the kids out there and you're instantly gravitated towards, what's going on, and you want to go out there and spend time with them because you see the happiness, really. It's a bunch of kids who are going through the most difficult time in their life, but they're getting a few days to just be themselves and get away, and you can see it in their faces, and you can see it when they're down there, and it's just it's a great time. It's a great time for players. It's a great time for the organization. It's a great time for the patients, for everyone, and it's a really cool thing that Lisa does, and um, it changes lives, and it changed mine, and it changes a lot of the patients. And I know as players, former players, current players, it's an easy thing to go out there and say hello and spend time with the kids, because at the end of the day, baseball is just a game, and there's a lot more important things, and that's definitely one of them.
Lisa, for you, I'll give you the final word. If you sort of pull back out to 30,000 feet, what are you hoping happens this weekend? What is the goal of this trip?
The goal of the trip is really to have these kids find themselves again, find out who they are with cancer, and find friends. Find friends that will understand everything they're going through and that will stick with them through the dark times, through the light times. I think that's the main goal, is really have these kids feel special and have them really come back feeling, I'm ready to finish this treatment. Let's do this.
Can't wait to see you. Brock, unfortunately, I know you really wanted to be here. You can't get here this year, but I don't doubt you'll be. We'll schedule it around you next year. We'll make sure you get here.
Perfect. Yeah,
it's
perfect.
amazing. We thank you both so much for the time. Lisa, I'll see you on Saturday or Sunday. Brock, we will see you soon. Lisa Scherber of the Jimmy Fund Clinic. Brock Holt, once and forever a Red Sox star. Thanks for joining 310 to Left.
Thanks so much.
Nice TC.
So throughout the weekend and Sunday during our Takeover game, we'll be talking about the Jimmy Fund, the efforts to raise money for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, and what's happening over there. We're doing it through the lens of the teen trip. And joining us now is Dr. Ben Schlechter from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And Dr. Schlechter, you are a specialist in gastrointestinal cancers, but we talk about colorectal cancer specifically. We don't usually think about young people, but there are an increased number of cases being diagnosed in young people. What's behind that, and how much more challenging is it when you're dealing with a young person's case?
Yeah, great question. There's a lot to unpack. So I think the first thing is just to kind of know what we're up against. Every year since probably 1970 or so, there has been an increase in colorectal cancer in adults under the age of 50. And it's not just any colorectal cancer. There's particular types of colorectal cancer, and in particular rectal cancer. So the challenge of rectal cancer is more problematic than colon cancer. People who get rectal cancer, which is this subset of colon cancer, are more likely to get sick from it, more likely to have bad bowel function or end up with an ostomy bag, more likely to have infertility as a consequence of treatment, and more likely to die of it. So the fact that the cancer that's increasing the most is also the cancer that's the worst, and it's happening in younger and younger adults, even teenagers, is a really big deal. And we're working really hard to figure that out through a lot of work here and other places. But these are big deal problems that we're working hard to sort for you.
And for a lot of the reasons you just said and others, colorectal cancer specifically is difficult to treat, correct? I mean, what are the latest advances there? And take us into that sort of frontline battle right now.
Yeah, so we had like an outbreak of really cool and good innovations in the 90s and early 2000s. And then since the early 2000s, we hit a wall. Treatment got pretty good, but not great. And I would say in like 2003 to 2007, we were like the other cancers, we were doing really well and seeing innovation. And from 2007 until now, we really have not seen any major new drugs. We've been chipping away here and there. We're improving certain things. But we've been through a revolution in the past 10, 15 years in immune therapy, in every other cancer, and a really rare type of colon cancer. But for the average colon cancer, for these young onset colon cancers, doesn't work. We've been through a revolution moving away from older chemotherapies and using newer and more interesting and targeted chemotherapies, safer chemotherapies. None of those have come forward in colorectal cancer. And so we're kind of behind the times, and we think we now know some of the issue. It turns out that every cancer is really different. The term cancer is super generic. It's like saying the term baseball, right? The Red Sox are not the Yankees, okay? And colon cancer is not like other cancers and behaves differently. Things that work in colon cancer don't work in other cancers and vice versa. Immune therapy works by pushing back on the way your cancer suppresses your immune system and hides in your body. But the way colon cancer does that is different than other cancers. And so the drugs that work in other cancers don't work. And we're just beginning to see some new innovations with a trial published in Nature Medicine just this summer with like a really cool new drug that might be working. We're working hard to get that into patients in clinical trial and hopefully get that approved and have the first really new modern treatment for colon cancer, frankly, in 20 years.
It's exciting. We've heard a lot about advances, CAR T treatments and solid tumors. You're on the front line again. Tell us what you're looking at and what's exciting you right now in the battle against it.
Yeah, so CAR T is super amazing, right? So CAR T is this idea that you know a target on a tumor, a protein, whatever it is, and you can design an engineered T cell that has the capacity to kill that target, and it will kill anything with that target. This was developed in blood cancers, which have really, really unique targets, and it's dramatically effective. The vast majority of patients benefit. Some people are even cured with CAR T therapy. And in colon cancer, we're just beginning to get started. We think we've identified some targets, but those targets are present on your normal colon or in other parts of your body. So when we attack the colon cancer with the CAR T, we can cause injury in other parts of the body. And we're getting better and better and better at managing that injury. And we have early phase clinical trials that are just getting underway. We're talking 10, 12 human beings in the world on some of these trials here at Dana-Farber, and starting off in CAR T and solid tumors. And I think there's a future here. I'm really excited by it. We're making progress. There's work to be done. But I'm hoping that, within this decade, we're going to have advanced trials and begin to get closer to approvals for CAR T that many people with many cancers, including colorectal cancer, can get.
Amazing. One of the incredible things about the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, you're on one side, you're working with new therapies and new attempts to find a cure, and you can walk it down the hall where the care is happening, right? Mm-hmm. It's always so exciting to be able to talk about that creation of a new attempt and a new trial to bring it down the hall. When you go through these trials, we think about individual cases and patients and how it affects the patient. But for you, being able to get these into work so quickly, how much does that help the process?
Yeah, I mean, it's tremendous, right? The first thing for patients to know, we don't do placebos in cancer, okay? Don't be afraid of clinical trials. Clinical trials in this stage are comparing a good drug from a good drug. We're going to pick the winner. This is a place where you walk by the Nobel Prizes on the way to the cafeteria, and we can head upstairs and you're sitting in a room with someone who might have discovered the gene you're working on in a clinical trial. And that's a really powerful thing. And people come here to get care, and we're here to provide care as oncologists, and to share ideas with each other and share ideas with patients and learn from everyone around us and just jump on something that's working. And the infrastructure here, this is a big place, right? Is built around the next thing. It's really important that we do good old-fashioned chemotherapy really, really well. But if we're doing our best job, that's going to be old news in a generation.
All right, you talk about the care, and let's bring it back to where we began this conversation, right? More young people are being diagnosed with colorectal cancer. The care for them is different, right? They have different needs, psychological care, social care.
Yeah.
What is Dana-Farber doing to try to treat those younger patients now?
Yeah, so the first thing about young patients is they are often delayed in diagnosis, okay? Most young people with colorectal cancer need to see 3 doctors before someone says, maybe it's cancer. Because when you hear about a young person, you don't think about cancer. So one message for patients is if you feel like something's wrong, bring it up, mention cancer, stay on top of it. By the time we see a lot of these patients, they're pretty beaten up. They've been through the ringer. They've been told, it's just a hemorrhoid, it's not cancer. But no, it's cancer. And that is just so painful for patients. We provide a lot of support for that. The other thing about younger patients, they're more likely to be diagnosed with advanced disease. And so they have different therapeutic needs than patients with early stage disease or surgical needs. We're working really hard to design treatments that don't jeopardize fertility. When you're younger, you're in the prime of your life, you're having your kids, you're raising your family, you're working. We're building infrastructure around getting those things done for patients so patients can work and be on chemo, work and do surgery. And we're working on fertility preservation. So when you come here as a young person with colorectal cancer, we're going to ask about work. We're going to ask about life. We're going to ask what you've been through to get here. We're going to do what we can to think about fertility, think about your family, and provide a whole net to support you through this process.
All right, finally, let's talk about early detection. It's where all these conversations end up, right? The easiest way to get a better outcome is to diagnose the cancer earlier. And when you're my age, colonoscopies are a way of life. You know that's part of preventing this from happening. Probably a tougher message to get across to younger people. What are you doing about getting earlier screening for these people?
So the first thing to know is the United States Preventative Task Force, the USPSTF. They're the guys and gals who do the research, really important research of the NIH, who look at the numbers and say, hey, look, we've been doing colonoscopy at 50 for generations. That's not good enough. And we moved it to 45. And probably soon it's going to be, that's not good enough either. We're going to move that to 40. Their current recommendation for people starting 45 and above is to do either a colonoscopy every 10 years, and if there's something abnormal, more frequently, or you can do one of those tests you see advertised on TV like Cologuard, where, just to be clear, you poop in a box and you mail it in, and they use that to figure out what's going on. There are some newer blood tests which may be less good at detecting precancers, but very good at detecting cancer once you got it. And that's important, but probably precancers is better. The critical thing is that if you are 45 and above, you do your screening, whether it be Cologuard or colonoscopy. And if you're below 45 and something is wrong, you see your doctor and you ask about cancer.
Dr. Schlechter, it's an amazing conversation to have. Thank you for sharing the time. And you brought in both a Yankees Red Sox reference and a poop in the box reference, so you're shooting up towards our favorite guests of all time. It's amazing work. Thank you for everything you're doing.
It is my pleasure, and thanks for having me.
All right, as we talked about there, this is all about the patient. And joining us now is a man who was a patient as a young man, a young adult, a teenager. At the age of 15, our next guest was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma. Eric Donovan joining us now. Eric, we're talking a lot today about what the trip means to the teenagers who get to go on this trip. And we could talk about the science and the medicine and everything that goes into it. But being a teenager is tough enough. Being a teenager who's fighting cancer is almost unfathomable. What was your experience like? What did moments like this, getting out of the hospital with other teenagers going through the same experience, what did all that mean to you?
It meant the world. I think the Jimmy Fund shines in this way in looking beyond just the obvious hardships of treatment and looking at the patient more holistically and guiding them through a really challenging time of their lives with some really special opportunities that might not otherwise be attainable, but doing so in such a manner that seems just seamless. And like, this isn't just special attention for a really heavy diagnosis or a challenging disease they're going through. They're just they want to make you feel like a kid and make you feel like you are with everyone else.
Lisa tells the story of a mom who said after the trip to Florida, it was the first time she felt like she had her daughter back. Her daughter had changed so much. The spirit and the joy she showed as a young girl was suddenly gone. She spent the weekend in Florida with other teenagers, made new friends, was all of a sudden she was back. Your trip, what did it mean to you? What memories do you have of that trip to Florida?
I think what the clinic does and shines itself is, deserves a whole entire separate podcast. The trip itself was an opportunity to share an experience with other teens that were going through a similar challenging time in their lives and be able to just kind of empathize and just feel that with each other without being afraid to be honest and share some of the realities that might not come up in conversation otherwise.
Did you have favorite Red Sox players? Did you get to meet some players? What was that interaction like?
I think Johnny Damon was like all-star back then, and I just remember the oohs and ahs when he entered the locker room back then. But yeah, no, I got to meet a handful of them over the years. The Red Sox Nation beyond the Jimmy Fund had honored me at a game for individual that rode to every major league stadium in the country, ending at Fenway, and also allowed me a few introductions that I might not have otherwise.
It matters, right? I mean, you're 15-year-old. Again, it's such an uncertain time for any teenager who's healthy. Like having the support of the Jimmy Fund, having them introducing you to Fenway Park and Red Sox. Like, how did that help you? We know ultimately you were fighting a disease, and it was the science that ultimately helped you through that. But psychologically, what did all that mean to you?
I don't want to give that all away to science either. I think that what the Jimmy Fund again shines at is looking at the patient holistically, and that there is a psychological piece to that, and it can't, though much of the time is doctors, treatments, radiation therapy, chemotherapy, there is life still to be lived, and the Jimmy Fund did a great job at giving you extra opportunities at living life and enjoying it.
You're a health coach now, right? You're working in the functional nutritional space, and you're helping others. How much of that was sort of rooted in the help you got? Like, how did that shape you, and how did that sort of frame the person you are now as you sort of are able to give it back in these lessons you're helping others with?
I'd say equal parts between my cancer history, and then ultimately I suffered a spinal cord injury, and I think between the two of those, I got to meet hundreds of people that had the ability to hold space for others that were going through really challenging times, and that really spoke to me, and I just saw and felt how valuable that that presence was in the individual person's health journey, but just the ripple effects of that it just not only affecting the patient, but the patient's brother and sisters and family members. And the Jimmy Fund did such a wonderful job at not only including the individual patient, but the outside circles of that. So it influenced my career decision immensely. I always wanted to give back. I hold my time as a patient at Children's Hospital very close to my heart. And the same can be said for Spalding Rehab. I think that there are certain types of people that are destined to be in the positions and hold the roles that they have. And I was fortunate to meet many of them and have allowed me to sit before you today and retell my story, and hope that someone out there is listening to this and can get them through their challenge and to the next day, and know that things will get better.
I want to follow up on a word you just said, fortunate. Like, you've been through a lot. And we hear people over at the Institute and the Jimmy Fund Clinic talking about, we're so lucky to be here. No one thinks someone who's going through a cancer diagnosis is lucky, right? But the word fortunate, like, we have we're here in Boston. We have the greatest minds working in the field. You were able to get great care after your spinal cord injury. Talk a little about that, about the ability to sort of you've been through a lot. And yet here you are, a real positive presence in other people's lives. It's all shaped who you are, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's an accumulation of the good in the world that I met through some really hard challenges. I think I picked up pieces along the way, and what you see in front of you is a collection of that. And what greater honor than to pass that on to others going through challenges themselves.
All right, this Sunday, 40-something teenagers who are patients at the Jimmy Fund Clinic are going to be here at JetBlue Park meeting the Red Sox. They're going through the toughest battle of their life. As a guy who was there when he was 15, what would you say to them today? What advice would you give them as they go through this journey?
Take it each day at a time. Wake up grateful for the opportunity to just be and have the support of Red Sox Nation behind you, included with the Jimmy Fund, and don't be too shy to ask for the autograph if the opportunity presents itself.
That's it right there. And I'll let you give one last shout out. I know anyone who's been through that clinic knows what a special person Lisa Scherber is. We started the show with Lisa on. What would you say to Lisa?
Thank you. And that's all I have. Huge gratitude towards Lisa.
Eric, thank you for coming on. We'll use the word. We're fortunate to have you on. We appreciate you and appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Appreciate you. Thanks so much.
All right. That is Eric Donovan, who's sharing his story as we share the story of the teen visit this weekend. And we thank you for checking out this edition of 310 to Left, presented by your New England Ford dealers. I'm Tom Caron. We'll see you again next time.